aren't able to join us this morning can see it. Okay, great. So welcome. Today we're going to be talking about nonfiction and thinking across genre reading units. So to advance this here, yeah, got it.
Perfect.
Okay, just so we know, the upcoming units, nonfiction starts on October 21st. Today's the 4th, so that gives us a couple of weeks to get ready. We have supercharged essays starting on Monday for the writing units. I'm hoping that you guys have heard about it. If you had someone from your campus that attended the face-to-face section on the 23rd, that would be awesome. But the supercharged is different from the breathing life into essay. So if you have printed that out from last year, discard it. Get the new supercharged essay, which I think you should have received some emails about this week. Also, the next reading unit after nonfiction is thinking across genres, and this is brand new. It's not the old connect, compare, and contrast unit. It's all new stuff to really help our students be successful and STAR with the paired passages. And of course, we have not met yet about the upcoming writing unit of study, which is the prompt-based essay and revision, which starts November 11th. We will have to put that out to you as soon as it's done, because we are revising that one as well, due again to the changes and in response to what we now know about STAR. Okay, so to get started, today our focus is going to be the nonfiction and the thinking across genres reading units of study. So for nonfiction, it's like, what can we read? And we were asking in the poll, what are some of the nonfiction texts that you use as read alouds? And this is something that you need to think about over the next couple of weeks, is start looking for those texts that you can use to read aloud to the students. I know I loved continuing to read my fiction stories and my chapter books and all those things to the kids, but at this time too, it's also an awesome opportunity to go ahead and start reading aloud some of these things prior to the start of the unit. So you can find things, and there's a whole list of things that you can pull from to have some read alouds for that. And again, short texts are great. So to get ready for this over the next couple of weeks, you want to let your librarian know, yay, this nonfiction unit's coming up. We need lots of that available for our kids when they come to the library, so they can at least get one nonfiction book and then the other book of their choice as a suggestion. That's what I used to do. Look through the Journeys books, those leveled readers, and see, the nonfiction text in there, put them out there. Ask from home if they have any nonfiction books that they don't want anymore. My kids were always bringing in books, donating from the house. And then, of course, Scholastic News is a great resource, and you can also have mini pages from cron.com. KIDBIZ is another resource, and we'll talk more about that in a moment. So we have the TEKS for nonfiction, which are 4.10 and 4.11. And summary is one of the biggest parts that we want to talk about briefly. It's something that's important not only in fiction, but in nonfiction as well. And it looks a whole lot different in nonfiction. I'm sure you guys have seen that. Basically, you want to continue to practice summarizing paragraphs or summarizing sections of text. But you want to highlight the most important details and summarize it in a few sentences with the overall meaning. And you want to steer away from BME, because it doesn't always work. Depends on how they present it. Sometimes if they have headings, they'll pull main ideas from each heading. That might work. But if they don't, which many nonfiction texts do not have headings, you want to just get the general idea. What is it mainly about, the whole thing, and then try to summarize it in a way that has the overall meaning in just a few sentences. Also, they need to be able to describe explicit and implicit relationships. So understanding how it's organized in the different ways. The score for this type of question was 66% on the last test. So only 66% of our students were able to do this successfully. So this means that you need to be talking about the relationships between ideas that are explicitly stated in the text and those that are underlying and have an underlying influence. You will have the students thinking and talking about the relationships of, and in quotes, characters, like the people or the topics that they're talking about, those relationships, and also the relationships in society or in nature or history. How does that all compare and work together? So informational text is probably the most readily recognizable piece. So they need to be practicing in all sorts of nonfiction, but the readiness genre is expository, which they recount events, a collection of interviews, reports, feature articles, things like that. Supporting genres are the procedural in 4th grade, and those are like guides, pamphlets, materials, manuals, recipes are a great how-to. And of course, media literacy is also embedded in that as well. So you want to have students really pay attention to embedded information in text, because they tend to ask questions that they will have to have pulled information from those embedded pieces. And they want to also have the kids analyze and talk about why the author chose to embed this information, and then have them analyze it as well. And they need to be able to get information from that information. One of the things that we've noticed is that kids are really great at saying, okay, that's the table of contents, and that's the glossary, and that's the index, and all of these things, but they can't pull information from that. Like, they don't know how to use it. They can recite the definition, but they really need to know, what does it do for them? How does it help them navigate through the text and help them understand and comprehend and get new information? So we want to work on that quite a lot. A couple of the question stems that we saw on the test was the author organizes the selection by. And this next one, which is really tricky, is which sentence from the selection supports the idea that. So what that's saying is that kids really need to understand what's the big idea, what's the author's message or the main idea of this, and how does what the author chooses to include support that idea. And then, of course, questions about media literacy. And as we know, one of the test, it was Jessica the hippo with her hand up in the air, the trainer's hand up in the air, the man, and kids got a little confused on that one as far as thinking that showed that why she was famous. So we really have to talk to them a lot about pictures and how they're used and what they really mean. A resource to use as well with nonfiction is KIDBIZ and Achieve 3000. You can search for articles that you would like to use and, print them off and use them on the Elmo or project them on the board. You can use those articles as you read aloud with your mini lesson and as you confer with students. So take full advantage of this great resource, because those articles are written that are high interest and they're current and something that people would be talking about today. So the kids really like that. Also, genre connections. We all love Tanny McGregor. She's done such a great job of having those concrete experiences up front for students, which they really need before they can understand it in the abstract. So if you look at that Genre Connections book that she has out, one of her newer ones, in Chapter 8 is on informational text, and the concrete experience has to do with seed packets. There's also a music connection. You can go to this website, songsforteaching.com. And this next one, David McCandless. I don't have it on the next slide because it didn't transfer well. It says it's here, but if you just Google David McCandless, and he has his own website, and you click on that, it's just wonderful. He takes lots of data and presents it in a visual form that's just very engaging for kids, and it's an art connection as well. So, and then, here's the website, informationisbeautiful.net, is another place as well to see data in an artistic form, which is going to be very engaging for students as well. So, new lessons within the nonfiction. In this part one, the new lessons that you'll see have to do with media literacy. There's a media literacy lesson, and there's a media literacy test talk, complete with the text to use to model and for the kids to practice with a partner or something like that. And then there's author's craft, which will be later on, I think in February when you return to that. So we'll talk about that later. But the media literacy is and author's craft are new and nonfiction. Okay, so the next part is thinking across genres, and this is going to be a really short piece here. It's a new reading unit of study. As I mentioned earlier, it's not the old connect, compare, and contrast. What had happened is back in last spring for the summer school, Julie created these great organizers to really analyze each text separately with their attributes, with the titles and the important details and how it's organized and all of that stuff. And it had it side by side. You could do the same thing for another text. And then you look across to compare these attributes and then be able to identify how they're similar and how they're different in ways that aren't immediately apparent. Because with STAR, what we're seeing, when they first said paired text, we're thinking, okay, we could have a poem about the Dust Bowl, and then we could have a nonfiction article about the Dust Bowl, and that would be our paired passage. But as we've seen, and I'm sure you have noticed as well with the released test, that these paired passages aren't immediately recognizable as being connected in any way. You look at them and go, well, they don't look obvious. There's no obvious connection. So by critically analyzing each text really deeply and looking very closely at each of the attributes, then you can look across them and find those connections and find those areas where you can contrast them as well. Because that's exactly what STAR is doing. They're presenting things that are seemingly unconnected and asking students to find how they are connected or understand what are the critical differences. So taking this reading unit of study, you've got some time for that, but I would go ahead and look at it, and we provide the text for it. And what's great is you guide them through analyzing and then comparing these two texts. We give you, for the teacher, what you can put in the chart, but you're going to build this with the students. So you want to make sure you don't just copy the chart that we have provided to guide you and put it up there for the students. You want to help them see those connections or see those attributes and then look for the connections. So I think that's going to be valuable for you and for the students, because it just helps you understand what we now know about how STAR is using those paired passages. So you've got some time for that one as well, but it's all right there. But I would suggest a week or two before that comes up, or a couple of weeks at least, really look through it so you understand, because you will be analyzing over the course of several days, over a week I believe, these two texts, and you're going to just critically look at different parts of it each day. You're not going to do the whole thing in 1 or 2 days. It's going to be a long process, but then show kids how they can do that when they're looking at text immediately, or short passages is also beneficial after that. So that's basically it today. I'm making it short and sweet and to the point. If you have any questions, just feel free to shoot me an email, and I'll get to those as soon as I can. Just know that our next date is going to be November 15th, and it's going to be on literary nonfiction reading and the personal narrative and prompt-based personal narrative for writing. Again, that's going to be at 7:30, and it's going to be Adobe Connect, which watch for that link in the email. And that's it. So, did anybody guess who that music was? Anyone? If you come up with it, just shoot me an email. I'm not going to tell you now. Not Kenny G. But that's a good guess. It's before Kenny G. I'm telling you, I'm old, guys. It was before Kenny G. So keep thinking. No, not David Benoit. Nice try. Jazz saxophonist. Nope, not David Cause either. You guys keep going. Okay, his name is, would you call it Spanish?
Oh, yeah, kind of.
Kind of Spanish, but it's also, yeah, it's a Hispanic name. A Spanish name.
Oh, now you could give them the initials.
Oh, initials? Okay. His first name starts with G. His last name starts with B. Good luck and have a great day, guys. Bye.